right. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm Ingrid Sullivan, and several of you have been here several times, so you know that's who I am. I'm Ingrid Sullivan. Forgot my name tag today, and I hate that. I always tell agents in our office, don't walk around without a name tag on, because then what you're doing is being a secret agent. Here I am, no name tag today. So I'm Ingrid Sullivan, and I want to introduce my team for those of you that might be new. John Sullivan. My partner in crime, my partner in business, my partner in life. We just celebrated our 40th anniversary. Real estate agents on our team, and we're right-sizing experts. Just a little story this morning. I had an opportunity to close a couple that I've been working with. They moved to a 55-plus community called Roach Ranch up north. And they were at a place in their life where they decided they needed to right-size one more time into something a little bit smaller. So I have a wonderful partner that I'm able to make those arrangements in different locations in the city with people that know that we work with older adults and help us go through that process, because it's not always, for some people it's, oh yes, I can't wait to get out of it, and there's other people that's, I've lived in that home for 40 years and I just can't let it go. So it's really great, and we want to make sure to recognize those partners that we have that help us. Now, something else that's happening today, which is really exciting for John and I. So today's October 7th. We have a partner that is in our business that is celebrating 7 years with us. Wow. And that is Miss Debbie Ford. And, you know, I can't, she's a pretty special person for us. She runs John and I, she keeps us on our toes. She does a lot of the formatting and idea creating of our seminars. She's responsible for the content as far as arrangement, etc. We all kind of work on this together, but of our book. And Debbie, you already know, gotcha. Thank you so much for So we are Sullivan & Sullivan Real Estate, and we are also the owners of Senior Downsizing Experts. And we have other partners that make that possible for us. With Senior Downsizing Experts, we have repair contractors that work with us, estate liquidators that work with us. We have financial and legal individuals that do a great job working with our clients. And we also have movers and packers. And all of them are involved in many ways with the different things that our clients need. It's not always about a move. Keep that in mind. You don't have to move to be involved, but it's nice to have partners that you can trust and feel good about referring to. So Senior Downsizing Experts is a part of Sullivan & Sullivan. And through that, we did something else that we really love to do. And this is going to be, next year will be our 5th year. And that is to put together an educational series for you so that we can all talk about those things that we all talk about one-on-one or with a couple of people, but we want to talk about them in a bigger way so that we can not only educate you, but empower you in the things that you're learning. So that's the reason for the seminars. They're never meant to be salesy, pushy, but they're meant to give you resources. So we couldn't do any of the things that we have here today without our special partners, our education partners, and our sponsors. And I will tell you, because I have one of those, I have more than one of those individuals here today, but in particular, I have Robin Guerrero here with Older Public Title, and they have been a partner for real estate for John and I for over 10 years now. And they're super great in providing us with a resource when we have a client that lives in Denton that doesn't want to come to Arlington. Well, you can just go close there. And picking the right person for us to work with our clients. So Robin, thank you for being our sponsor.
Absolutely.
We very much appreciate that.
Partnership with you guys.
Thank you, thank you. We also have Dignity Memorial, Bertha Earls, who's not here today. We changed the date. We were going to do it next week, but we moved it up a week. And Bertha's calendar didn't match with ours. But Bertha is with Dignity Memorial. They do an excellent job in providing services and counseling for people that are wanting to do some planning for what happens when I'm not sitting in this chair anymore. And I need my family to be able to know how to manage my affairs. So she's really great. We have Civitas Senior Living, which has been a great partner for us. They have 17 different retirement communities around the Metroplex. And they're beautiful, beautiful retirement communities. There's a map on the table out there if you didn't pick one up. If you or someone that you know is thinking about making a change to a retirement community, they're very worthwhile checking out. We have Celebration Magazine, which we all hopefully pick one up. The latest is out here on the table. Next year, we're going to be expanding to Dallas as well. And Celebration has a wonderful location where we'll be able to do seminars like this at their location. So they've been great sponsors for us. Cherry Creek Mortgage is another really great sponsor. They've helped our clients with refinances. Older Public Title gets involved with refinances as well. The loan called Home Equity Conversion Mortgage, which we'll talk more about today. They're really great. Count It All Joy Estate Sales. That's a great company if you're thinking about doing an estate liquidation. Remember, you can't live in your house when you're doing that. That's important to know. We have Alvin Keller Ranch. Alvin Keller Ranch is a division of Greystar, and Greystar has many active adult apartments. A little bit different than independent living because they're senior apartments and they're age restricted. They've got a brand new one in Keller, which is Alvin Keller Ranch. Who am I forgetting here? We've got our spotlight sponsor, which I'm going to have you talk to in a minute. The Watermark at Broadway City View used to be a Brookdale community. Now they're Watermark, and they're a retirement community that has cottages, independent living, assisted living, and skilled nursing in Fort Worth, over off of Brian Irvin. We also have the Elements, and the Meridian has been super, super kind and great to us to provide us with this beautiful location to hold our seminars. The Elements is the 62 plus homes. Some of you went on the tour that we did a few months ago. On the backside of this development, which is a master plan community and multi-generational for the most part, but on the backside, there are homes, one-story homes, that are 62 plus. So if you haven't had a chance to get to know them, you really do owe yourself a trip over there and have a look and see. And I think that pretty much takes care of everything except for our spotlight sponsor today, which is Haber Health. And I'm going to have Troy stand up here and come and talk a little bit about that. I think it's on for you. There you go, right.
People be able to hear me.
Yeah.
Hello?
It's not working.
Okay, just use your outside voice.
So I'm Troy Miller. I'm a wealth advisor with Haber Wealth Management, and we're about 20 minutes down the road, about west of here in Fort Worth, right off of Forest Park at 30. And we're really focused on pre-retirees and retirees. So getting you to and through retirement is what we're focused on. And then also that next generation, right? Helping you with your kids, or whatever it is that may come along behind you. So we're really focused on, like I said, pre-retirees, retirees, and then that next generation of folks. Our goal is really to make a lasting impact on your lives and your family's future. So that's what we do at Haber Wealth Management. Obviously, it has a lot to do with investments, but more to do with planning, taxes and things of that nature. Keep you out of those hairy spots. So
Okay.
that's what we do over here.
Thank you, Troy. All right, so let's go ahead and move forward. So as usual, we want to try to have you hold your questions until the end of our seminar today. There inside of your handout is a place for you to take notes. And the main reason that we do that is that we have a time limit that we're here. So we want to try to keep our topic going, not that your questions are not important, but we're going to give you a chance to write them down now, and we'll make sure that there's time to answer them later. And if it's something particular to just you that you feel like you really need to talk with one of those people, afterwards, our speakers today, our guest panelists will be available for those questions. So moving forward, each one of these individuals is going to introduce themselves to us today, but I want to at least make sure that we show our main panelists today. So we heard from Troy, and Troy's going to talk to us about the financial part of our seminar today. We have Miss Frances Look, and she's going to be talking to us about Medicare and all those things that we think we know, maybe we need to know a little bit more about. And then we have Ms. Deidre Kindred, and she has a special service that she offers through her nurse advocate business. And then we have Chandra Thompson, who will be speaking to us also from 60 and Better, which is a great group in Fort Worth, and she'll be sharing some things too. Okay, so, just kind of taking a look at what we have up here for us to get started. Many benefits of growing older. A lot of us are experiencing those things already. Wisdom. We're finally smart again. A lot of times we get to that place where our kids think we know nothing, but we have wisdom. Emotional maturity. Well, mostly. How about retirement? Time for travel and hobbies. That's something we all work so hard for. And sometimes we don't allow ourselves to really actually do that. So that's something that if you've been thinking about one of these days, remember one of these days, we need to get it going. Relaxation, not having to go to the office every day, not having to worry about sick time, vacation benefits. Volunteering, it's a great time to be able to do those things that maybe while you were working, you would say, gosh, when I have time or when I'm retired, I really want to be a part of that group. And grandchildren. How many of us are grandparents? That's a beautiful thing. I don't even want to get going about that, but oh boy. Your grandkids really think you're marvelous. They really do. We've got young ones, and it's nice to be able to see that you're passing that along, that your family has grown and that you have them to carry that on. Troy's going to talk to us about financial benefits today, and I actually have some questions that I'm going to ask him to help us with some of these things. So Troy, if you wouldn't mind taking your place again at the podium.
Sure.
Didn't want you to get too comfy there. So we have a list of things up here that we want to talk to you about. And here's the first thing that I want to ask everybody. Let's see a show of hands for the individuals that are here today that are already taking advantage of their Social Security benefits. Okay, so what's important for us is to know that, Troy and I talked about this the other day, there's some things here that you're not at a place where you're taking advantage of that yet. We're not there yet, Debbie's not there yet, but some of you have already been enjoying those things. But Troy, if you could, we've got some bullet points up here, and I'd like for you to tell us about Social Security and a person that's drawing Social Security, and speak to these bullets that we have for you.
Right. So this is a big decision. Is the first thing I'd emphasize, because a lot of times people don't think it's I'm 62, I want to get my money, right? So they go ahead and apply, and there's really a lot to it. So at our office, we work with a partner. I'm sure most of you guys have heard of BlackRock, but they're one of our investment partners, and they have some really nice analysis tools that we use on their website and have access to, and they can really tell you when the best time is to take Social Security. So for some people, it might be 70, right? Waiting until 70, and they have longevity in their family. It allows them to lean on some of those accounts, those IRAs, those other accounts, taxable accounts that they may have, and then start withdrawing that benefit later. For others, maybe it's health reasons, they want to take it at 62. Maybe they lost their job. So there's a lot of reasons why you want to really look at that. Obviously, if you do take it early, they're going to knock about 25 to 30% off of that. So you're going to get a reduced benefit. So it really is worth it sometimes to wait to that full retirement age.
I have a question for you real quick. Why do they reduce it if you take it early?
Well, a good question. Most of it's because of you guys may or may not have heard of actuary tables, and it's they're projected how long you're going to live. So they know if they're going to pay you at 62, they're probably going to pay you a lot longer than if you take it at 70. But that's not always the case, unfortunately. So does that answer your question? So mainly because they're going to pay you longer, and then they like for you to take it later, right? So I mean, full retirement age for most folks is 66 and a half, 67 now. So it's not 65 anymore.
Right. I have another question to ask you about that. If we have a good year, does my Social Security amount increase? Or how is that determined as to what I get for Social Security?
Right. So we tell all of our clients and folks we're working with, I don't think anybody's getting 8% in the bank right now, right? So if you wait every month that you wait after your full retirement age is going up, your benefit. So if you wait from 66 at full retirement age to 70, a lot of cases you're getting a 32% increase in that benefit as far as nominal. So it really, like I said, you're not getting 8% in the bank account. It's hard for me to promise 8%, right? You got to take a little bit more risk to get to the 8%. So that's why a lot of times we'll have people wait if it makes sense for their situation.
If there's more than one party, spouse, husband and wife, do they both get Social Security?
Well, it depends how long they paid into the system, right? Okay. So sometimes you have teachers, other folks, pension. I had a lady today I met with from city of Fort Worth. She's not going to get Social Security. She worked there right out of college. She didn't have enough hours, quarters worked for Social Security. So she will not, but a lot of times one of the spouses will, right? Mm-hmm. And we'll help them figure that out. So a lot of times we'll file and suspend. So the wife may draw benefits on the husband, right? And the husband may wait until, so we'll go ahead and file. The wife will take benefits off him. And so let's say her benefit's $1,000. Let's say they both have Social Security. They're both able to get Social Security. Her benefit's $1,200. His is say $2,400. When if the wife was if the husband was to pass first, which we all know that's a lot of the scenario, not always, but you see that. And so then the wife can then take his benefit, right? So then she'll lose her benefit, or $1,200, but now she's getting $2,400 from the spouse.
Okay.
So
let's move on to another topic then. So the next topic is, are there any advantages for older adults when it comes to retirement accounts like 401k or IRA?
Yes.
Good. That's your area of expertise.
So so and this is a big deal because sometimes it may not feel like it when you're reading the paper. You're like, is that really going to help me in my situation? But if you're, we use a software called eMoney. There's another one out there called Money Guide Pro that's very good, and it'll give you a confidence rating of if you're going to be able to meet all your goals in retirement. And so if you're not getting around 85% or higher on that confidence on meeting those goals, then you really need to take advantage of those catch-up contributions. So for instance, if you have a 401k, you're working at Cook Children's, that'd be a 457B or government retirement plan, but they're very similar. 401ks, all those retirement plans are very similar. But you'll be able to put $26,000 in there a year out of your pocket versus $19,000, which is the limit for somebody under 50. And then obviously you'll have your employer match. So it really can make a big difference to max fund those catch-up contributions.
What was the name of that application?
Well, I know I said fast, but the 457B is similar to a 401k.
Okay.
Right? But I use the example of Cook Children's, and you would have a 401k because it's not nonprofit hospital, right? So
and the application you mentioned earlier that you could look at to see how long your investments would last you? Right.
So we could sit down with you and help you understand if you're going to run out of money at 70, at 80, or maybe you're going to be able to fund it through 90. So I was just saying, if you really, if you're around 85% or less when we run that stress test or portfolio, so to speak, you really need to take advantage of those catch-up contributions. But folks I mean, everybody's using, take advantage of those catch-up contributions if they can.
Is it called E-Money?
Yeah, E-Money is the software that we use. Yeah, it's actually owned by Fidelity now, but it's the #1 financial planning software out there that's been ranked by, Morningstar, unbiased third parties. Yeah, E-Money is a good one. That's the one that we use at our office.
So just along the same lines with that e-money, ideally, when we're looking at our money and how we want to invest it or how it's going to grow or utilize that, that's the kind of thing, though, that we really want to have someone like yourself or a financial advisor go over with us. It's not something we want to download an app.
Well, unfortunately, E-Money, you have to, only advisors can have access to that.
Sure, that's what I was looking for.
They basically, they distribute that, or you have to buy the license, right? So you have to buy, it's expensive. It's probably besides our rent, real estate, right? Besides our rent, it's probably our second biggest expense.
Wow.
Well, I guess you'd say human capital, right? But our third biggest expense is that software. I was going to say also that it does make a big difference, because before we could draw it all out on paper and pen and give you a pretty good idea. Now we pretty much, can give you 100% certainty, and we can even build in scenarios like disability, market corrections. If it hits us before, we're able to take advantage of protecting the portfolio.
Okay. All right, well, let's move on to the next slide. So the next slide we have for you is, are there any income tax benefits for older adults?
Yes, there is. So I'm sure you guys are aware of the tax deductions, or the standard deduction. Did increase quite a bit the last few years. And for folks 65 or older, it's actually about $2,600 higher for a couple, married, filing jointly, or $1,300 higher for single households. So yeah, the standard deduction definitely is higher. Also, if your only income is your Social Security, you're not having to file a tax return, you're not paying taxes. And then a lot of times your Social Security is only taxed about 50%.
Oh.
In some cases, if you're making more than $44,000 in income, you're going to have to, your 85% of your benefits will be taxed.
Oh, okay, great.
But there are some tax credits. I'm sure you're aware of the real estate, or freeze on your value on your properties.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later today.
But and then I was just bringing that up because there's not a whole lot of tax credits. That's one. But most of the tax credits that are attributed to seniors, or you got to be making around that 25,000 or less, unfortunately.
Anything else of it in the bullets that we have for you that you need to go over with us today?
And by the way, I'm not a CPA. I'll be on. We do a lot of tax planning in our firm because we have access to the IRS codes like you guys do, and so we do have a CPA next door to us that we can bounce ideas off of. His name is Jeremy Johnson. He does a great job. He's a CPA, but we do help in regard, and we can't help as far as forecasting, but at the end of the day, if you want legal advice signed off, it's good to talk to your accountant or CPA.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Troy.
Any questions at the end?
Yes, questions at the end.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to go ahead then and move forward to our next speaker, Francis Look. And Francis, if you'll come up and give us a little intro about yourself before you get into your topic, that'd be great.
Definitely. I am Francis Look. I am a self-confessed Medicare nerd. I love it. Do I need the microphone, or have I got a good outside voice? Can y'all hear me? Y'all can hear me? I love talking about Medicare. I do monthly articles about Medicare. Not that much of a writer, but I do it anyway. I try to make a very complex, boring subject both factual and humorous, which is a test. So in the state of Texas also makes me tell you that I am a licensed agent in Texas, Louisiana, and New Mexico. That's out of the way. Now we can get on to the presentation.
Oh, that sounds good. So like we did with Troy, a show of hands, how many individuals that are here today have Medicare? Okay, all right, great. So that kind of gives you an idea of your audience and what they might know already, and how you're gonna go with your presentation.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So
So I have a question for you. What are the different parts of Medicare and what do they cover?
the different parts of Medicare, and Medicare is actually about 3 different doors. I like to use the Price is Right analogy on that. The A and B part are your door number 1, that is original Medicare. Now, just a little bit of the boring history here, because remember I warned y'all I was a nerd. Original Medicare was enacted by Congress in 1965 by LBJ. Now, all of y'all, since you're on Medicare, might remember what was going on. This is not a test. We don't have time. But we had the Vietnam War, we had the Beatles, we had mini skirts, we had all of this stuff going on. So you'll see in the slide this great big piece of Swiss cheese. And that's what original Medicare is, because Congress took it together and did what they could to get a bill passed and signed. So about 10 years later, we can go to the next slide.
Oh, okay, great.
Oh, wait, I need to explain them. Go back. A and B, part A is your facility-based care, your hospitals and anything in the hospital. But what we have here is a charge, and there's absolutely no cap on what they can charge. Part B is what you sign up for and pay for. This is income dependent, so I have a little bitty charge that I send you where you can do it. It's income dependent, so you will always pay for parts A and B, no matter what plan you have, or if you choose to stay with the great big piece of Swiss cheese.
Oh, okay. All right, great. So we've got both those, okay. So then we're gonna also move on to our next question for you, and that's going to be, what is Medigap? Medigap coverage. Is that included or is that something extra?
This is something extra. People were complaining about this great big piece of Swiss cheese because the bad thing about this is there's absolutely no cap on what you can be charged. So anytime you're in the hospital, it's a minimum of $14.08, and that changes every year. So people were actually, and these are things where you can actually start losing things like bank accounts, you know, your homes, your pets, stuff like that. So the big companies came out, and these were the life insurance companies and all of that. And they said, you know what? We could insure people just like we do on their lives and their cars, but on their health. So what we're going to do is we're going to pay them, charge them a policy premium, whether they use it or not. And it's like your home insurance or your car insurance. And they're called Medigap policies, or the slang term is Medicare supplements, which I don't like because that's like Kleenex or Coke. It's really not what it is. It's a generic term. So what these do is they fill in all the holes of original Medicare. So you're paying this policy whether you go to the doctor or not. You may have years you don't even go to the doctor, but you pay. But then you have that one bad year where you have to have a heart transplant, you've got a knee, you've got a hip, everything goes on. And if you're in either, what I primarily sell is Plan G. If you're in Plan G or the old Plan F, with the new Plan G, your maximum out of pocket for all of that for the year is $203.
Wow.
I call this the Rolls Royce plan. There are absolutely no worries. And that's what we have. The advantages of this plan
Move forward.
are you can go to any doctor anywhere that accepts Medicare. It's good nationwide. You need no referrals, no specialists.
That's nice.
They claim to cover foreign travel. I've traveled extensively. If you're in Croatia and you have something happen, the Croatian hospital is not going to know how American Medicare. I tell people to take a credit card, then come back and bill your company. You know, don't think you're going to present your Medicare card.
So hold on first, I want to ask that question. So you're saying take your credit card and come back and bill your company. So I've got a $25,000 bill from Croatia, and I'm gonna come back and send it to Medicare.
Yes. No, to your company. To your company.
What company?
Your insurance company
I
that has
see,
your
okay.
Medigap policy.
Okay, great.
Disadvantages. You only have guaranteed issues at certain times. These are when you just turned 65 or you're just retiring from a job. Otherwise, you have to go through what I call the big bad wolf, and that's underwriting. And let me tell you, if you've ever had anything or you've been on any kind of medication, you're not going to pass underwriting, or you might pass and it might be $1,000 a month, so that's not all that valid. And with this, you also have to have, and this is in Medicare speak, this is deemed optional coverage, but how can it be optional if you don't have it and you're charged a penalty for the rest of your life, which is 1% a month? So I tell people they have to have prescription drug coverage. There are two main ways to get prescription drug coverage. You can get it along with your Medigap plan, or you can enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan, and it is embedded in each plan, and it generally includes drug coverages.
I think I have copies of the slide here.
Yeah, the common denominators in any of them are the initial phase, which is the deductible, the coverage gap phase, which we all know is the donut hole. I like to call it what it is. And again, in this Medicare gibberish, they say the donut hole is going away, but it didn't go away. You're still paying 25%. So how can they tell us that? Then you enter the cost sharing phase. And then once you get to the catastrophic phase, which this year is, I think, 6,980, you're paying like $380 for generics and $980. So it gets a lot better. Other common denominators are all plans have a formulary that is set by Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and all plans have tiers. Now, the kicker here is each company, each plan within the company, and each state can have different formularies, different tiers, different everything. It's a nightmare. And why do I love this? Well, y'all are making me doubt. Okay, you can change. Okay, then what happened, and these came out, these are the new kid on the block. These came out in about 1997, because what people were seeing was that their Medigap policies kept going up and up and up. So you have some people that are now in their 90s that are paying $800 a month for a Medigap policy.
Oh, wow.
And even if they're in good health, they are still having to pay that. So what these companies came out, and these are called Medicare Advantage plans. In 1997, they were called Medicare Plus Choice, and then in 2003, it changed to Medicare Advantage plans. What these companies did is they said, you know what, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, you are not an administrator. What we can do, and these are when you get your mail and it says $0 premium, $10 premium, all of this stuff, do not believe Joe Namath on TV. It is a big fat lie, unless you are Medicaid, then it holds true, but do not believe him. So what these companies did was they came out and they said, we're going to handle all of the administrative. We're going to handle all of that. You don't have to do anything. We're going to deal with the pharmacy networks, the doctor networks. We're going to deal with the clients. We're going to deal with everything. We're going to take it off of your plate. And so Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services said, wow, what a deal. What's the hitch? And they said, well, you're going to turn around and under the table, you're going to send us their Part B premium. So what you're going to see is $0. What you're going to see, and y'all are all raise your hands, you're on Medicare, probably Social Security. So you'll see on your Social Security statement your Part B that comes out. Well, that's being sent to whatever company you have. Then they all got into competition, so that's the name for Advantage. I mean, I told y'all I was a nerd. I had to do flip charts and note cards and everything else to learn this. They're called Advantage because they got into competition and they said, hey, you know what? We can add some dental. We can add some vision. You know, we can add some hearing aids, you know, to win over more people because they don't talk to each other before AEP. Now we can have over-the-counter benefits. And I don't know if any of y'all remember green stamps, but I love flipping through that book. I wanted a fancy thermometer and I got mine free. Doesn't work, I hate it, but anyway. What they have now that is really, really wonderful are the virtual office visits. And depending on what plan you have, I had a sinus infection. My doctor wanted to see me. I didn't even want to drive out there in my nightgown. So I looked on my plan. I could get a teledoc appointment in 20 minutes in my living room. As he was talking to me, he was having my script sent to Walgreens, and slam dunk, I was done in 20 minutes and I'm at the drive-thru. Can't beat that.
That's great.
So
that's the home network, or no, that's just being able to do?
teledoc, and that's included in most of the Medicare Advantage plans. Okay, common denominators here in Texas, and this varies by state, so you have to learn it for every state. The two main types that we have here in Texas are HMO plans and PPO. HMO are member by home. If you just add an O in there, it means you have to stay in your own network and you have to get referrals to in-network doctors. The thing here to remember if you have an HMO is if you have an emergency, you can go to any doctor, any hospital, anywhere, and it's covered. So you don't have to worry about that. PPO plans are just like your work PPO was, and these are a broader network. You're still probably going to have a primary care, but you don't need to get permission to go see a specialist. And some of the companies have come out where they are good nationwide. So if I get sick in San Francisco, I just go to a hospital there, and a friend of mine's from Louisiana. She, in the hurricane they just had, she stepped off the curb, dealing with the dogs, trying to get to her daughters in Austin, broke about 4 bones in a foot. She was able to have all of her surgery and all of her care in Austin with her daughter, just like she was there in Louisiana.
That's great.
So, and with these, even though it's gonna, people call me and say it said 0, why am I paying this? You're always going to pay your Part B. So you're paying your Part B out of your check, but for your plan on American Advantage, you're either 0 or a very low amount.
Okay. So tell us about when can you make changes to your plan?
Guess what? Guess what? You can make changes in starting October 1st to December 7th. So you can enroll initially, or you can make changes in your plan. Or what I tell people is, even if they have a plan that they're happy with, an agent might have a plan that's got a ton of dental. Say you want an implant. Well, I might have a plan that's got $4,500 in dental, but maybe your doctor's not on the plan. Well, I only see my doctor once a year. I'll pay my doctor $100 and get the $4,500 in dental. It doesn't take Troy to tell me that's a good decision. Although I would call him yes. So, and you can also sign up at this time too. So, you all have your Medicare. I didn't see anybody that did not raise their hands. So you know what the Medicare card looks like. Okay, I have information on the back table. If you want to grab some.
On the front table.
Front table. It's in my back. And there's some goodies, so grab some goodies. There's some little things where you open jars and to put over your cans or bottles and other stuff in there too.
That's great. Thank you so much. And we'll, again, she'll be available for the Q&A time. So keep those questions there for you. And then so let's kind of recap where we've been. We've been talking about the benefits of when do you qualify for Social Security. Are there benefits to, when can you draw money from your investments? When's a good time to do that? Then we went to a insurance type program for individuals that are qualified for that, 65 and older, Medicare. And what are the different things that we have options there? I know that my sister lives in Missouri, and I think that their counseling, for lack of a better way of saying it, I think they only have Medicare A. I think that there's probably more that they should get, but they didn't know where to go or who to talk to. So, you know, like Francis just said, there's times when you can actually sign up or change your plan, and you've just got a certain time that you can do that, but you want to always review that and make sure, am I getting everything that I have coming to me that's worth it for me, whether I'm paying $0 or $10 or something, right? So now we're going to go to another benefit, which I think is really a great benefit and a lot of people don't know about. And I'm going to ask Ms. Deidre Kindred to come up. And Deidre, if you wouldn't mind starting out by introducing yourself to our audience. And also, just to remind you, did you bring your, everybody that's here today has something out here on the table. So make sure that you check that before you leave. Perfect.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. I get a little bit excited because I used to be a cheerleader. So.
That's great. And you're using your microphone. I love that.
Well, my name is Deidre Kindred. I have been a nurse for 20 years. My background is CVICU, MICU, SICU, CCU, PCU, legal nurse consulting, and home health with IVIG infusion. That's a lot of initials. But all that to say is that I'm well versed in the healthcare arena.
Yes, you are. You are.
Yes. So what is a nurse advocate? Well, we are educators, advocators, and navigators for individuals and families who are confused by the complex healthcare system. It's always changing. It's always something new. There's always something different. This gentleman over here asked me about the COVID vaccine, the booster. People don't know the answer to that just yet because it's just so new.
You're right. You're absolutely right. So how did you get involved being a nurse advocate? I think there's a special story here that you want to share with us.
Yes, so this beautiful woman is my mother. She left this earth in 2008 at the age of 55. So what happened to this woman? Well, she started having some symptoms. It looked like MS, and it also looked like Parkinson's. Well, going back and forth to the doctors, they said, well, she's too old for MS, because you usually get MS in your 30s, and she's too young for Parkinson's. So you usually get Parkinson's in your 70s, you know, right in that arena. Frustrating. Talk about frustrating. I'm a nurse and I'm working in CVICU. I'm also training nurses on open heart surgeries. I'm on the hospital education committee. I'm on the hospital hypothermia committee, so on and so on. Have a son, have a home, have a business, have a career, and then you also have your mom and dad who have several positions that don't have the time to talk to one another. So this is extremely frustrating. It's an 18-month journey with going to the doctor, getting this test. Oh, no, it's not that. Okay, we gotta go over here, we gotta get this test. Getting off of work, begging to get off of work, let me rephrase that. Do you understand what mom is going through? So that is the reason that I started this company, because so many people are confused and the doctors just don't have the time to talk to one another.
So tell us about your mission. We've got them here on the screen in front of our audience.
My mission is to educate and empower individuals and families so they can have a better understanding on their personalized healthcare journey. So I understand that in healthcare, they don't do that. They put you on an umbrella. You're a CHFer, or you have diabetes, or you have Parkinson's, or you have whatever. They gap you into their their medical research, oh, everybody does this, but where's the individualized care? So our mission is to fight for you as an individual, for your physician to understand what is your journey.
And your vision about your business.
My vision. So we're gonna be the first nurse-led industry company that's gonna be a real advocacy company. And no offense against the hospital advocates, but they work for the hospital. They have a list of people that they have to see that day before they get off of work. We are for you, not the hospital, not the doctor, not the insurance companies. Who do we serve? Well, I had a story, real quick.
No, it's good.
Have you heard the story of Little Red Riding Hood? How many have heard that story? The Little Red Riding Hood also had a grandmother who was in the hospital. Little Red Riding Hood grew up to be a beautiful woman. She had a great career. She had a husband. She had kids. She had things she had to do. But her grandmother had 5 physicians that didn't have time to talk to one another. Little Red Riding Hood has no work-life balance. So what can Little Red Riding Hood do in this situation? She can get a nurse advocate to help her, guide her through that maze of confusion, the navigation, what's next. So we've all been a Little Red Riding Hood. I know I was when I was going through with my mom. So that's why I needed a nurse advocate.
Well, I want to ask you something about that, because I think that what you do oftentimes, Little Red Riding Hood didn't have the time to go. So oftentimes someone will take grandma to the doctor and they leave with a prescription or something, but then Little Red Riding Hood is saying, what does that mean? What do we do? Is she going to heal? What happens? And I think that what I've learned from you and what you do in your business is really you're working for those individuals as their advocate. I think that you're their liaison, because a lot of times, how many of us have been to the doctor and the doctor has said blah, blah, blah to us, and we walk out of there saying, I have no idea what they just told me. Or for a loved one, well, they said I'm supposed to do this exactly, but I don't know why we're doing that because I didn't understand. So someone like yourself, as an advocate, can make a difference for those of us that don't speak that language.
Absolutely.
Correct.
And then what if one doctor says one thing and another doctor says something opposite, right? And you're like, well, he told me to do this and she told me not to. So what do you do then? So you don't Google. Please don't Google. Don't Google.
The doctor said they got all their business from the results of Google.
Yes, that's so true. So you can get a healthcare professional to be on your side, go through each and every one of those medications. Talk to your cardiologist, your pulmonologist, your renal doctor, your PCP, your neurologist. Make sure you're at the center of the care because they don't have the time to do that.
Right, exactly. I think that's good. So we have another slide here for you, and what type of service is important and how is your service paid for? Tell us about this information.
Okay, thank you. So when I say certified registered nurses, another mission that I have is to teach people that a nurse is not a nurse is not a nurse. Don't ask me about a kid. I don't know. No birth babies. I'll always joke and say, I'm not a below the belt nurse. And adults. So I don't know about rashes and just different kids' disease processes,
You know
but
about hearts though.
I know about heart, lungs, and kidneys, and Alzheimer's, and IVIG infusions, and, a couple other things. But I try to stay in my specialty. So when I say specialty nurses, my goal is to match you with that specialty nurse that is going to be in your corner for your main problem. So say, for instance, you have cancer, God forbid, and you want an oncology nurse. You want that nurse to be well-versed in what's next for you, individualized, right? So I'm very particular about that. You have to have a minimum of 5 years experience. I want my nurses still working in the healthcare arena so that they know what's next for you, the latest and the greatest procedures, the research on those procedures, the medications, so things like that.
But
And
how many people are a part of your group?
right now, I have me, and I also have a certified senior advisor. She was trying to get here, Sue Wallace. So she also we kind of partner together, because Sue is also well-versed in patient care. She's awesome, she's amazing, very personalized, very understanding. So she helps me when I have a client that has a doctor's visit in Plano and another client in Colleyville that has a doctor's visit the same day. So I love being at those doctor's visits.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask you. I mean, do you actually go to the doctor?
Absolutely.
I mean, but if it's just you, how many patients can you actually manage? How many people you need your service, like at one time?
Right now, I have 10.
Wow.
Yeah, so pretty busy. But my main goal is to, make sure I can teach them how to be their own advocate. When do they need to speak up? When do they need to ask a question? Do you know what question you need to ask? Do you know how your medications are working? Because some people have been on blood pressure medications for years, and they don't even know if they're working. So documentation is key, and I guarantee you, if you go into a doctor's office and you're documenting things, he's gonna listen a little bit longer, maybe 5 minutes instead of 3.
Because you're writing it down.
Right.
Okay, great. So, I like what you do. I think it's a very needed service. And is that something that Medicare is gonna cover?
No,
Uh-oh.
Medicare does not cover it because this is a new concept. There has been patient advocacy for years. You've all been patient advocates, as a matter of fact, for someone you love. But a patient advocate that does not work for the hospital or work for the doctor, but they work for you. So there are lots of patient advocates out here. There are patient advocates that specialize in helping Ms. Francis navigate Medicare for you. They don't spell Medicare. Francis does that, but they help navigate Medicare. Like say your claim was denied, or you can call your advocate up to help you navigate that. Or if you don't understand your hospital bill, you can call that advocate and they can help you with that. So when you're vetting your advocates, make sure you look at their experience. What do they do? So it is a up and coming industry, and I do envision everyone in the next 10 years having their own personal advocates for their family.
That's great. That's really great. So, the reason I asked you about whether or not you were covered by Medicare, I think because we just came from that conversation, that's important. But also, in the other seminars that we've had together where we've talked about senior living and senior living options, independent living, active adult living, a lot of times assisted living, they're all private pay. You're paying for those services unless you have something like VA, aid and attendance, something like that. So it's really not unusual for it to be private pay. But it's important for people to know, I want a service like that, and I'm going to need to check to see how I pay for that. Correct?
Absolutely. There are even advocates who help you navigate VA. I do know some. And so it's all about, for me, it's all about, if I can't help you, I can provide you resources. I can send you in the right direction. So to me, it's all about collaboration. That's key. You understanding and having a voice when you're talking to a physician. I have one lady, she has 9 physicians.
Oh, wow.
9. And so they have no clue. And everybody's on different portal. So how many people know that those patient portals are a pain in the you-know-what? And they're not talking to one another. So that's crazy to me. So the medical system is so complicated. I get frustrated sometimes, but I can't show my frustration to my clients because I'm there for you, trying to decrease your stress and making sure you understand. So,
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
your presentation. We appreciate that. So we have another guest that's with us today, and Ms. Chandra Thompson. Chandra, if you'll take the podium for us. Tell us a little bit about you. Actually, John and I know Chandra from another business, which you might share that as well before you went to where you are now.
Yes, I would love to. My name is Chandra Thompson.
Chandra, sorry,
That's
Chandra.
okay, that's okay. I'm a social worker commission, but I'm also a voice for the voices. And like Ingrid said, I've known her, and I've always said Miss Sullivan, Mrs. Sullivan. I'm gonna say John and Ingrid today. I've known them now probably about 7 years, probably about 7, 8 years. I had the privilege, the pleasure and opportunity of meeting Mr. Sullivan at a Kiwanis meeting. I was a Kiwanis and he was, and I was there at this meeting. I had to speak at this meeting and share what I do. I was working at the Alton Life Shelter. I was there for 17 years with the Alton Life Shelter up until about 6 months ago. And I shared a story with the group about some things that was going on with the homeless children at the shelter. And one of those things was we was having a challenge every morning keeping milk on site for them to have cereal. And we was having to go out and purchase milk, and sometimes they would have to even dry because some of them would want cereals, you know, late at night. So I shared that story. After the meeting, we ended the meeting, everything went well, and I started across the parking lot. And Mr. Sullivan was walking right parallel to me, and he said, Chandra, would you tell me a little bit more about those kids? So I spoke with him, and I told him how they have been, you know, having challenges, having no cereal, and we didn't have milk, we were running, we were spending a lot of money. So he said, okay, I'll be in touch with you. And about 2 days after that, he called me. He opened up an account at Brahms for us, where we can go weekly and get milk, and that happened probably now, it's been about 6 or 7 years. And I still say today, so grateful. That account, I'm no longer there, but they're still able to use that account. They just go up and pick up the milk from Brahms, and they send the bill to him.
Nice to know that they get that.
Yeah, very grateful, very grateful. Where I am now, I'm with 60 and Better. The agency 60, when they hear 60 and Better, oh, sometimes I'm out, I'm not 60 yet. Well, the agency 60 and Better serve also at ages 40, 30, depending on, you know, what your conditions are. But I've been in the field of nonprofit and working in the community here in the city of Arlington, probably now about 21 years. I've piloted programs in the city of Arlington. I did a lot. So I'm here today to talk about 60 and Better, and I have something for you all that I'm excited to share. We focus on health, and to come behind Deidre here with her, when she was sharing, that was just excellent for me to just flow in and follow behind her. I'm also a certified self-management diabetes trainer, as well as a chronic pain and chronic disease trainer through Stanford University. And we offer this program to the community. Today, what I have for you all is this book. It's a Healthy Living with Chronic Conditions book. Everyone here today will get it. It's free. Also, you're going to get a relaxation CD as well as an exercise CD that you can use at home. And also, you're going to get a journal to use, as well as a magnet to put on your fridge for portion sizes, different portion sizes for your meal needed. And this program I'm so excited about. We were doing it in person before the pandemic, but because of the pandemic and our seniors being isolated, I've seen them where they were up walking around, very mobile. I've gone into assisted living now where they're now in wheelchairs. So we're also going in and doing Tai Chi and different things like that. But you all will get this kit. This kit is for you to learn how to self-manage your health at home, communicate with your doctor. Like Deidre said, know your own medications, know what questions to ask. Also, your food choices. Check the back of your cans when you're picking your food up. See how much sodium is in that can of beans or whatever you're purchasing. And also, there's a part in here about mental health. How are you staying connected to your family, your social network, your community? If you are isolated, if you feel like you're stuck, you need to reach out to someone. Don't stay in that place. Don't stay in that dark place.
So I have in my notes here that you have some social support programs, Talk Time Companions. What is that?
Yes, that program, we have right now about 32 seniors that enrolled in that program. And you are connected with a social worker assistant. We also have some grad students out of UTA. They call you weekly. You build a relationship. We're not calling to talk to you. We're listening and want to hear what your needs are, what's missing, how can we support you? We have one lady right now, she's been on the program 16 weeks. And it's time for her to transition off. And she's gotten so connected to the volunteer until we're right now trying to plan, how are we gonna be able to transition her? But we're thinking now we're gonna have to keep her on and pass her on to another volunteer. But that Talk Time Companion Call program, I'm excited to share, we just got a grant from the city of Arlington to fund it.
Oh, nice.
We were operating and paying for everything on our own, but just last week, we got the notice, we were approved for a grant. So if any of you all here are even interested in that Talk Time program, I can get your information after this, and we can have someone call you and see about getting you enrolled.
How about grand family program?
The Grand Family Program is a intergenerational program. We're looking at, there's a lot of grandparents that are either raising their grandchildren or they are caring for their grandchildren. So to bring that relationship back together, because now the children are computer, game box, whatever you call it. My boys are old, that's inbox, what you call it, games?
PS4.
PS4 and PlayStations and all that. They're into that, the computer, the cell phone, and grandma's reading the newspaper, watching TV, having her coffee. So this Grand Family Program, we're looking to bring them together where we can create that connectivity again. We're going back to having them to do creative arts where they can build things and make a movie out of it. And just, it's gonna be I'm very excited about it.
That's great, that's great. Thank you so much, Sean, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Sounds kind of like what we had last month in our technology. The name of that website, Debbie, was
Cyber Seniors.
Cyber Seniors. So, I was thinking when you were mentioning that, of how many high school students are working with seniors on learning how to use their computers better, different applications that they have. So it's nice to see that there are programs out there that are joining them together. Or adopt a grandparent. There's a lot of individuals that are living in retirement communities that their family's not close by. They don't get to see them, or they are close by and they still don't get to see them. That there are individuals out there that would love to have a grandparent that they could adopt and do holidays and that kind of thing. So that's really great. Super. Okay, so we're going to change modes one more time in our presentation today. We're going to talk about housing. John and I are in the real estate business, so we always want to put a little housing something in there for you, news in there for you. And in the very beginning of our seminars, when we were talking about planning for your future, we were actually talking about options, just kind of bringing it back home. For most people, they're thinking, how much money do I have? Oftentimes people will say to us, I want to get out of this big house. I want something smaller. I want to buy one more house before I moved to a retirement community. What's available for me? I haven't had a mortgage in 60 years, 50 years. So this was one of the things that we talked about in the very beginning. And this is just kind of a reminder to you about the home equity conversion mortgage example elements here at the Meridian. Doesn't have to be a brand new house. It could be a pre-owned home, but smaller, more manageable. That home equity conversion mortgage is a way for you to convert your equity into cash. And there's two ways to do that. You could use a home equity conversion mortgage loan to purchase a new home at 55% of what they're actually selling it for. And it's all based on your age. It's one of those programs where the older you are, the less you pay. Example, $375,000 home, you might end up bringing $187,000 to closing. And you're done. At that point, it's paid for. All you're responsible for is taxes and insurance and HOA if you have that, homeowners association. But that type of loan it's an FHA loan. It's government insured. So if you're thinking to yourself, well, what happens when that house becomes too big for me? And I want to move on to something smaller. I want to move into senior living. You're going to put your house on the market just like you would today. And depending upon where we are in the real estate market, if you sell your home and make more, like in most cases you are today, you're going to pocket that money and then you're going to have that small balance, the other part of the 55% that you would take care of. but it gives people more options. My parents lived in New Mexico, and my stepfather was not well. And my parents have, for them, and I talk to John about this all the time, and Troy, my parents had all of their money invested in the stock market. In 2008, I think it was, they lost all of that this was going to be their nest egg. So they were living on their Social Security, and there was a time for them where my stepfather was ill, had COPD, and they needed something. Their home was paid for in New Mexico, and what they did was they invested in the home equity conversion mortgage, but the other name for that is reverse mortgage. They got a reverse mortgage based on the equity that they had in their home and had it as a line of credit. Kind of like what you're doing now, home equity conversion. But that money was set aside so that if they didn't have enough to pay the doctor's bills that my stepfather incurred, they had that to fall back on without losing their Social Security or cashing in their investments. This type of mortgage is one where the whole idea behind it is to keep your investments growing and not withdraw those investments, but have a break when it comes to purchasing a home. So something else that I have for you here on that particular loan, you have to be 62 or older. So it's not one that you can get if you're 30. You have to be 62 or older. You have to maintain your mortgage. It has to be your primary residence. So it's not your investment property, your vacation home that you may have in another state. It has to be where you get your mail and where you pay your taxes from. Now, some people like a workaround on that, and they say the rules here, you have to live there at least 6 months out of the year if you were looking at using it a different way. And that's pretty much on that one. Let's look at something else here. So now let's talk about another benefit, Housing for Older Persons Act. So, you know, there's certain homes that are available out there where there's what we call an age restriction. And a lot of times we have to be concerned as real estate agents, we have to be concerned about the fair housing rules. Because, for example, if John and I have a house on the market, our job for our seller is to make sure to sell it, to get the most money we can possibly get for our client in the shortest amount of time. Our job is not to determine what race that individual is that's moving into that home. That's a fair housing violation. On the other hand, there are certain restrictions that are actually authorized for senior living where they can restrict a neighborhood based on age. Elements would be one of them. You have to be 62 years of age or older to live in that neighborhood. Now here in this section over here, because it's multi-generational, you could be 62 years or older, or you could be 25 years old. As long as you got the money, you can purchase the house. So what's important there is to know the differences. There are places out there that are exempt from having families with younger children living in that building, for example. I did mention the active adult neighborhoods that we have out here. Also, one of our sponsors that I mentioned earlier, Alvin Keller Ranch, that's senior living. Those are senior living apartments. The rule there is there has to be at least 80% of the residents in that building have to be 62 or older. But as long as that is fulfilled, there's a chance that they could rent an apartment to a younger family. Okay, keeping that in mind. Let's talk about property tax relief. So a lot of us know about this, but it's always good to review the homestead exemption. You know, homestead exemption is the thing that you have on your home when you purchase it. So individuals, like the people that bought the house that I had the sellers this morning, so the buyer for that property is going to file for their homestead exemption in January. That's when the exemption is in their name. Right now, to get the advantage of that till the end of the year. The other thing that's important to know about that is that that exemption is going to give you $25,000 towards your school taxes for the homestead exemption. So if it's an investment property that you have that you're either going to turn into a rental or you're going to buy it and you're going to sell it, There's no exemption available on that. It's only your primary property. That's important to know. And there's a certain timeline where you can apply for that, between January, I believe, and May. Something else that's important for you to see here is that there's an over 65 exemption. Everybody here has a over 65 exemption, I'm gonna assume, yes. Okay, great. You know, as making the assumption that everybody has that, John and I have found where we have worked with individuals that didn't realize it was available. Now, I don't know how you can know that, because we're all looking for ways to cut our taxes, right? But the over 65 exemption is for just that, those individuals that are 65 and older on their properties. And like it says here, that's an additional 10,000 towards school taxes. And that's something that you want to take advantage of. So 25,000 on the homestead exemption, 10,000 on the over 65. Now, some things that happen with that, you can apply for that. And let's say, for example, your birthday's in November and you turn 65. You can actually apply for that, and they will look back to see what during that year, what part of that exemption do you still qualify for, and they'll catch you up on it, which is good to know instead of taking that away from you. School taxes are frozen at whatever the dollar amount is that you're paying on your property at the time that you turn 65. People call us all the time and ask about that. How do I freeze that? And if you're over 65, you get that benefit. But the senior exemption, so I'll take it back to my closing this morning. The people that I was closing were actually moving into a retirement community. So the exemption was not going to move with them. And if the person that was moving into their house was 65, the exemption would stay. Now, the person that is moving into their house is 55. So they'll lose that in January. My client said, so I could only have over 65 exemption on one house, and it's always only on your primary. It doesn't matter if you've bought 3 or 4 others as investment. It's only on your primary property, okay? How about the disabled exemption? This is also something that comes up, and people think, well, I'm 100% disabled, I'm over 65, and I have a homestead, I should have them all. And what's important to know is that you can have the over 65 or you can have the disabled. You can't have both. That's really important to know. The other thing that we point out on here is that for the veterans exemption, for you to be 100% exempt, then as it says here, it has to be due to a service connection. It has to be an exemption from taxation of the total appraised value of your homestead. So you have to have proof to the veterans that you actually qualify for that exemption. You just don't get it automatically. And then we've got the deferring of property taxes. And this is another place where we, especially right now with everything that's been going on since COVID, a lot of people will call and say, I just can't pay my taxes. What can I do? How can I freeze my taxes? How can I defer my taxes? And it's important to know that you have to apply for that. Doesn't just happen. You can't just say tomorrow, I'm not paying taxes anymore. You have to apply for it. You have to use the deferral affidavit that you have there. And keeping in mind that even though you're not paying your property taxes, your taxes, and there'll be interest that will accrue on that. So at the time when you sell your house, you're going to have to pay your back taxes. They don't just waive that and it goes away. Important to remember that. You sell your home and you're not making enough to pay your taxes, then you'd be bringing money to closing so that you can go ahead and satisfy that. Because the buyer needs to have a clean deed when they take on that property. How about this? Now, we talk about this a lot. This doesn't happen to most individuals unless you've just closed or you just purchased a property. Oftentimes people will call you and say, hey, for $80, I can file that with you I can file that for you with the county. you shouldn't have to pay for that. That's really important to know. Or I want to go ahead and I want to protest my taxes. There's a form that you can fill out to protest your property taxes, but there's also people out there that say, well, let me do that for you, and I'm going to either charge you to fill out that form for you. I mean, that's really in a lot of cases, it's a simple call to someone like ourselves and say, can you run a market analysis for me so I can see what everything else is selling for around me. The other part of that, though, is sometimes people, I would say real estate agents, will call you and say, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll help you defer your property taxes, excuse me. I'll help you lower your property taxes in exchange for a listing agreement with you. So at the time when you get ready to sell your house, you're guaranteeing that I'm the person that's going to do that. So you need to be really careful about individuals that are out there preying on you that way. You shouldn't have to pay for it. And then there's lots and lots of senior discounts. And Debbie put together a list for me, and I will tell you that you'll be able to see those as well. But for example, you have airline discounts based on the trip. You should get a discount if you are 65 and older, but you got to ask for it. Remember, if you don't ask, they're not going to give them to you. Sometimes they offer them, but not always. You have train and bus discounts. Amtrak will give you a 10% off if you're 65 and older. Greyhound, 5% off if you're 62 and older. Public transportation like DART give you discounted rates. So that's something important to keep in mind. There's cruises, all of these things you need to ask for. Dining, some give you a discount, others may give you free drinks because of your age. I don't know, you're going to kind of weigh that out and decide if you want to say, well, I'm older than me every drink. That just came to my mind. There's lots of other discounts like that. Golf courses, for example, a lot of municipal and private courses will give you a discount to play on their golf course if you're over 65. What's important here is to keep in mind, as this says, there are many benefits to growing older. We've talked about a lot of those today, and there's many more, and I'm sure a lot of us have heard different seminars on benefits for us. Don't be shy about asking for them, though. Remember, if you don't ask, you don't get it. What's the worst case scenario? You ask and they say, we don't have that. But you always want to ask for it and see if there's an option for you. And then this is just for you to know that in this seminar, we talk about a lot of things. And we want you to know that after next week sometime, because Debbie takes Fridays off, good for you. Next week sometime, she'll be sending out in an email a list, like we did last month for you, with clickable links on all of the different discounts that are available. She's done quite a bit of research on that so that she'll have that as a resource going forward. We would love for you to fill out your evaluations. Again, it's always important to know. Sometimes we get them, sometimes we don't. We always look for them because we want to know what works best for you. We're getting ready to go into a new year. Last month we said, please tell us what you'd like to see. We had a couple of suggestions, but not many. But we're really open to hearing from you because we want to put something together that's worthy of you coming. And as I spoke about earlier, we've got the Be Smart About Avoiding Scams. That's going to be our seminar next month on November 11th from 2 until when? 2 to 4. So come early, have a few snacks. It'll be a great one. Now we expect to have a lot of people come because of the guests that we're having and scams. All of us have been talking about that or getting one. And now we're at this place in our seminar before we do our drawing today that we want to open it up to our audience for questions. Who's got a question for one of our, yes?
So the Social Security payments that I applied for and am now receiving, can you stop those? Can you like suspend them for a while? If say you came in the money, so you want to kind of try and save your Social Security money and then restart it at a later time.
Great question. So,
Could you repeat that question for us?
so the question was, can you suspend, once you start taking payments from Social Security, can you stop that at some point and then restart them when you want them? We're actually dealing with a client and his wife right now on the same thing. So he filed, he was disabled, right? So he started getting his payments, but now he realizes he's about 10 years older than his wife, and he's worried that, you know, his payment's quite a bit higher than hers. And so we're gonna suspend his because they don't need it to get by. And then he can start it later and get that bigger benefit, because he knows that once he goes, that's gonna be her safety net, so to speak. So yes, to answer your question, yeah, you can go ahead and suspend. You obviously have to call up to the Social Security office and get the instructions on that. But yeah, you can suspend it and then reapply later. Does that help?
Yes, it does. And I have one more actually.
Okay.
So if you have, because, you know, we each have our accounts, when the money runs out, I think, before you die, talking about,
You're talking about Social Security?
you know.
You're asking if Social Security runs out before you pass? Is that what you're asking?
No, I guess you have a Social Security account, and then you pass, but you didn't use it all. So does anybody else get to use the remainder, or is that it?
No, well, once you and your spouse, yeah, there's no,
If I have a spouse that's alive still, he doesn't get any of my Social Security benefits.
unless he elects to take your benefit. Like if yours is higher than his and he wants to use yours, then yeah, he can.
But then he can't have his too.
But then he can't have his. And unfortunately, the death benefit is still it's $250 is what they pay you out as a death benefit. That's because it's been like that since it started. Does that help? Okay. And I will tell you this real quick. I don't think we're gonna have to worry about Social Security running out. They'll have to collect it 2033 or whatever it is. But as you can see, they'll just keep printing money. So, you know, so I used to worry about that a lot more. And now that we've we had an expert speak at our firm not too long ago, we asked him that question. And we feel like that what they'll do is they'll just keep kicking that can. So now for people that are probably 45 now or 50, maybe it's 70 before they get full retirement age on their Social Security instead of 65.
Troy, if someone starts to collect their Social Security at the age of 70 and they're working a part-time job, how does that work?
Great. So good question. Number one, I will tell you, never wait past 70 so sometimes people will be 72 years old because they're working. Now they start to collect Social Security. Don't wait, because they're not going to give you that. They're only going to back pay for a certain amount of months. So you want to, 70 is the very latest you want to wait to get Social Security. If you wait till full retirement age, so not 70, but full retirement age, you can make as much money as you want. It's when you draw it early. So if you take Social Security at 62, you better not be making more. I wrote it down here. It's like 18,960. So if you're working, you know, at the local, you know, corner store, and you're only working part-time, you're not making above that about 19,000 a year, you'll be fine. But if you're still working a job, making $50,000 a year, and you take Social Security benefits at 62, after that, you know, 18,960, for every $2 of benefits, they're gonna start taking $1 back.
Oh,
Right, so it can really affect your benefits. So you really wanna, you know, draw it out and make sure you're making the right decision.
Yeah, that's good. Another question?
Is that clear, by the way?
Well, I just didn't understand why if she inherited some money, why she would want to stop her Social Security. I mean, it has nothing to do with your Social Security.
Maybe running out of money on the Social Security.
Well, she may want to increase her benefit, right? So let's say she took it early at 62 and it's $1,300 a month, and now she inherited this money or whatever the case is, and she's like, man, I don't really need the Social Security to get by anymore. Maybe I wait till I'm full retirement age before I take my Social Security again, and bridge that 2 or 3 year gap, whatever it is that she's trying to do.
So she's getting both.
Well, so she's asking, why would you suspend? Why don't you just take that? Why don't you continue to take that money? The point would be to get you a higher benefit down the road, because, you know, she looks certainly healthy. She might live to be 110, right? So she might want to say, hey, believe me, if you do the math, you went till 70 and you live to be 97 years old, you do way better than the person that took it at 62. But anyway,
Okay, another question?
I don't have a question, but I do have something that I have taken advantage of before, and I wasn't mentioned on property taxes. But
Uh-huh.
they do allow you to pay quarterly on that, if not everyone knows that. If you have
Versus paying once a year.
minimum
Yeah.
constraints, you know, certain times, especially with jobs and stuff, or whatever's going on with the economy, but it's a nice thing to be able to do periodically.
It is nice. Did y'all hear that? If
Yeah.
you're on your property taxes versus paying it at one lump sum at a certain time, especially if your house is paid for
Right.
and you're not making payments anymore, you're still saving up your property tax money. You can actually set it up to pay quarterly, which would be a smaller portion versus saving up for that big lump sum later. Because oftentimes life happens
Yeah.
and you've got the property tax account set off to the side, but now you need new tires on your car, so you're gonna dip into that. So that's a good idea. Thank you for sharing that, Mary.
You can also, if you pay by the end of November, you could pay half and then you can pay the second half by June.
Oh, by
So
June.
that's how I usually pay mine. So I know.
Good.
Yeah.
So you pay half of it early.
Yeah, you
and
pay
then
half by
the rest-
November 30th, I believe,
That's
and you have until the end of June to pay the second half.
That's great.